And then you hit the nail on the head. I think one of my favorite maiden myths is obviously Persephone. And I think that's one that has been so predominant in our culture because it just makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I love about this book is that it unpacks kind of the way that that myth has been bastardized through the patriarchy. So I was going to copy this down, but I do want to kind of just touch on a couple of things. So we know the traditional story that Persephone, before she went to the underworld, was called Kori. And she helped her mother Hera to watch over the growing of the grain. She liked to wander, which is kind of that and that aspect of that innocence, just kind of going about the world in a way where there's no expectation and you can just
you're exploring and you're
Yeah.
inquisitive and
Yeah, you just experience these things as they come and there's no preconceived notion. And like the quote from here is like, growing to be among the wildflowers, especially gathering red poppies, which immediately makes me envision the red poppies and how similar they are. Well, that, but also how similar they are in the way that they look to a pomegranate.
yes.
So like when I was reading this, I was like, oh my goodness, that's insane that like there's this through line also of these red colors, right? These bright colors, these colors that represent kind of like bringing in. And that was like the poppies in the Wizard of Oz, right? This idea that these bright and colorful things can also be dangerous.
Well, pomegranates were it wasn't really an apple. It was a pomegranate.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So knowledge, yes, I love it.
Yes. So this story, this was a little bit different than I remember. Maybe I've been too inundated with other versions of this story, but apparently Kori Persephone like actually met spirits of the dead aimlessly wandering earth in her journeys of exploration. And she didn't confront her mother, but she was like, hey, they seem lost. Do they not have anyone to watch over them in the underworld? So we already see this inkling of like the maiden becomes the mother simply because they're aware of their surroundings and then want to nurture.
Yeah.
And Demeter, who's supposed to be this nurturing, caretaking character, claims that she's also mistress of the underworld, but her most important function at that point was carrying out the growing of the crops. So she really didn't have time to care for these spirits, which sits wrong with Persephone, and she says she's going to go take care of them. So this, to me, is a different story.
She's like choosing?
Yeah.
I love it.
Like, this is a different interpretation, and I like this because this really represents this idea of when you move from maiden to mother, it's not this downfall. Like you don't suddenly, and I think that again is this bastardized version that we get when other parts of our society come in and rewrite the story to make it fit their narrative. Demeter basically says, no, you're not doing that. She decides that she's going to she gathers red poppies and grain to take with her in remembrance of her mother's upper domain. Demeter does take her to the far down into the earth, hands her daughter a torch to light her way, kisses her, and wept as the girl disappeared into the chilly abyss. So again, like this idea of like this choice of going down and moving through phases, I think is a story that when we're talking about the maiden and myth, seeking out that perspective is really important because that is what the transition should be from maiden to mother. It should be a knowledgeable choice. It should be a guided choice, right? We should have other mothers around us helping us to make that transition. So